you know, when I go to St. Paul's Church on Sunday morning, I always sort of envy the preacher because he has a text to work from. You know, it's hard enough to think of a sermon every Sunday, but at least you have a place to start. You have the gospel or the Old Testament lesson or the epistle. It gives you a, you know, a kernel of an idea, and then you go from there. So I want to start with a text. Not a scriptural text, but probably the nearest thing to a scriptural text in our civil society. And it's the words of Abraham Lincoln. The dogmas of the quiet past are inadequate to the stormy present. The occasion is piled high with difficulty, and therefore we must rise with the occasion. As our case is new, so we must think anew and act anew. We must disenthrall ourselves, and then we shall save our country. We must disenthrall ourselves, and then we shall save our country. That was Lincoln, December 2nd, 1862, speaking to the Congress of the United States. And of course, the crisis, the occasion that was piled high with difficulty, was the Civil War. But the point that he makes, I think, is crucial and applies to us today. If we're going to resolve the problems that we face, we must disenthrall ourselves. Applying solutions that have not worked for 20 or 30 or 50 years aren't going to solve the problem that we face, particularly when the problems are of the magnitude that we are now facing. Now, a lot of what I want to talk about today is trying to think about, and I don't have the answers. I don't have the answers, but I'm going to raise some questions and hope that can provoke some thinking and some good thinking about the dilemma that we have in this country with the rope-a-dope of the oil business. Remember Muhammad Ali, the rope-a-dope? It's when, you know, they hit you and then you sort of back off and then they let you play around and sit on the ropes and you act like you're down and then you hit them again. How are we ever going to have a rational energy policy in this country when the basic fundamental price keeps going drastically up and down? Because you can't make investments in alternatives if you don't know what the future is, and it's likely, if you do make those investments, that it'll go down. That's a long and rather unclear way of saying we're not going to develop alternatives when the price of oil is down at $40 a barrel. Now, when I started talking about this issue in a serious way about a year ago, it was easy. You know, I spoke at Bowdoin on this subject last April, and I remember in the remarks, the price of oil was $114 a barrel. It hit a record that day. And I had just filled up my tank at my house, my oil tank, and it was, I can't remember what it was $2.50 a gallon or something like that. And the case was easy for the development of alternatives. It made intuitive sense, and it made financial sense. Then went up to $150 a barrel last summer, and then it fell back down again to the point where now it's probably adjusted for inflation. It's probably the same price as it was in 1925. I mean, it's very, very low. And significant investments in everything from Priuses to windmills don't make sense when oil is $38 or $40 a barrel. They don't make economic sense. They may make ecological sense, and they may make us feel virtuous, but that's not going to change the conduct of millions of people across this country. So the dilemma that we face, it's sort of a double bind, if you will. The dilemma that we face is it's very difficult to have conduct change, which is ultimately the only way this problem is going to be solved, with the continued low prices of oil, or prices go up and then they go back down again. Just when you get geared up, I mean, this time last year, everything looked terrific for alternatives, you know? And now suddenly it's a real struggle. And these people that run this industry are not stupid. I can remember in the 70s, one of the smartest guys in the world was a guy named Sheikh Yamani. Anybody else remember Sheikh Yamani? He was the first oil minister of Saudi Arabia when OPEC was founded. And he was interviewed on 60 Minutes or something like that, and they said, where's the price of oil going? He said, the price of oil will go 1 cent below that level, which will provoke Americans to get serious about conservation. I mean, they know what they're doing. And it's going to be very, very difficult. Now, let me back up a minute and give you a little bit of a context of the energy picture in Maine. Because if we didn't learn anything from last summer, we could be in real trouble. The first thing to note is that we all think, when you talk about energy, we think about electricity. And that's, you know, energy. What's energy policy? CMP, Bangor Hydro, electricity. Electricity is only 10% of the average family's energy budget in Maine. Electricity is only 10%. 40% is heating the house, and 50% is the automobile.